You know this sole newspaper-sourced image of David Zentner that I found on the Rialto report? The scandalous caption was bugging me, so I dug into it. As you'll recall, David Z was the publisher of Epic Books and numerous men's magazines. Hello again, Bonnie. And he was first based in San Diego, publishing Bear. Prior to Bear, I just learned that he also published a rag called Keyhole. We'll get to the dirt in a moment, but first this Keyhole business. Right after Thanksgiving in 1951, a fellow named Fred over on South Westlake had the following letter published in the Los Angeles Mirror in Dick Williams' column.
In a recent column, one David Zentner of National City seemed very upset about the effect of the marriage of Ava and her Frankie on the youth of the country. While many others view with disgust their actions, it seems in the case of Mr. Zentner, this could just be the kettle branding the pot black. The Parent-Teacher Association has branded a publication known as the Keyhole as the great contributor to juvenile delinquency and are trying to get it banned from the newsstands. Mr. Zentner is the editor of this rag, which deals with the doings of rapists, perverts, and prostitutes. Perhaps Mr. Zentner has never heard of that silence is golden, but in my opinion, this applies to both Mr. Zentner and his newspaper.
Okay, now the promised dirt from the Los Angeles Evening News, August 25th, 1954. San Diego publisher accused by girl, 16. Accused of attacking a 16-year-old girl in a Los Angeles hotel last April, David Zentner, 42, San Diego, publisher of Keyhole and Bear, today denied the charge, and he said he wants to clear my name at an early hearing. Zentner was booked in a city jail last night on the teenager's complaint made 3 days ago in San Diego. She charged that Zentner paid a visit to her in her hotel room here 4 months ago. Zentner maintained that he hired the girl to pose for some photographs. So now we know what this is all about, and we have an age for David Z. He was born in 1912 or thereabouts. And so, just how did this all play out? Same paper that year on October 8th. Plea date set. David Zentner, 41-year-old San Diego Magazine publisher, today received a continuance on October 22nd to enter a plea of 2 counts of statutory attack against a 16-year-old girl. Zentner, publisher of Keyhole and Bear, was arrested in San Diego last August 24th on a complaint of a Hollywood girl. And that seems to be the end of that. I can't find anything further. Somehow between summer and fall, David Z became a year younger. Other articles state that he hired her twice, the first time when she was 15, and now we see he's facing 2 counts of statutory attack. While poking about newspapers.com for some more, I next picked up David Z in the same Hollywood paper later in February of 1956. David Zentner, editor-publisher of Escapade magazine, who has just moved his offices from San Diego to Hollywood, was given a get-acquainted party over the weekend at the home of Forrest J. Ackerman to meet authors. Well, party on! Here we have David Z now in a new city with a new magazine. To my knowledge, none of these authors wrote for Zentner, well, at least not at Epic, but Forry, the host with the most, supplied him with at least 5. We've covered a few so far. We know sci-fi author George H. Smith, whose agent was Forry, was writing shorts for David Z's magazines years before Epic Books. Now, save for some notices of some new business names, that's it for David Z. Until 1964. Jury indicts pulp authors for obscenity. 8 men, 1 woman, and 5 corporations were indicted yesterday by the Los Angeles County Grand Jury on 1 count of conspiring to write, publish, and distribute obscene literature. This was a specific besiege of publisher David Z's new venture, Boudoir Classics. Besides David Z, 7 distributors were indicted along with 5 authors, 2 of whom had been with David Z a couple of years prior at Epic. I now believe Will Kenny of Rialto, later referred to in the papers as William, was the mysterious Wilhelm Kenny, who wrote Red Hot Berlin Blonde, number 127 in 1962. John Trimble of Arlington, Virginia, wrote the last book at Epic, number 148, Berlin Bedrooms, is Roger Blake. Obviously, the Berlin Crisis of 1961, which eventually culminated in the erection of the Berlin Wall, which was torn down in 1989, fed the imaginations of the authors at Epic. Trimble Blake was prolific. This is the only book named in the case that I can readily find online, Club Unique by Tom Vale. Interestingly, there were a lot of Epic writers at Boudoir. Kevin North, for example, but the district attorney must have cherry-picked certain works. Certainly sci-fi and sleaze author Robert Silverberg was spared. The authors were found by authorities via letters David Z had sent them. He likely kept the carbon copies. Just what did he ask of his authors? Tough, strong, hard-hitting, sex-action-filled books. What we basically seek is offbeat sex with emphasis on deviations such as lesbianism, sadism, masochism, fetishism, voyeurism. Plot is secondary. What we need is vivid sex action, scenes every few pages, the more the better. Naturally, the sex must be done in good taste by today's standards. The following March, the paper follows up on the case. 3 freed in an Obscenity publication. Those were distributors who were freed, though. David Z is still on the hook, as is Kenny and Vale, but the other authors are no longer named, so perhaps they were freed earlier. But at least 2 of those authors missing here ended up getting indicted yet again for another rap concerning another publisher, along with another writer who had been at Epic, but I'll save that case for another day. But not before letting you know it got worse. Unfortunately, I can't seem to find out how David Z's case played out. I can't find anything else. David Z doesn't appear again in newspapers.com until a man complains to the Long Beach Independent's Action Line that he didn't get paid for limericks he sold to the publisher's magazine Topper. Like many an epic writer, DKB of Seal Beach would learn, per the response, you don't get paid until your stuff is published. And as I've learned from a couple writers of sleaze, one might still not get paid. Neutral says there was an epic writer who threatened to kick down David Z's door to get a check for his published book. More on that fellow soon.